This time on the BK, I connect with Grinspoon's drummer Kristian Hopes about touring in 21, their new music, and what the vaccine may do for the music industry. In the podcast dedicated to people, product, and profession. The Brand Konnnect is proudly presented to you by Teaspoon Co. You may too say yes please to their handcrafted, organic loose leaf tea. So kick back, here comes the BK. G'day everyone, welcome to the Brand Konnnect 2021. This is season 2 of the BK. I'm Matt Jai and we're here with the one and only Kristian Hopes. How are you, mate?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Mate, it is an absolute pleasure to have you down here in the BK studio. We're right next to Lotto Land. You must be feeling good about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's got a good energy, this place. Lots of manly stuff around.
Mate, you are a Manly supporter, but you are a Queenslander. How does that work out?
Oh, pretty good for me. We win lots of stuff. It's good.
Oh, mate, that's not a bad way to be, isn't it? Winning is grinning. And talking about, winning, how the kids going?
The kids are good. The Grinspoon kids or my kids?
Your kids, mate.
Yeah, no, they're all good. They're all good. They're back at school and we're, keeping up with everything. So, yeah, all good.
And that's high school now, isn't it?
One of them's in high school, yeah, and he's doing well, and the other one's in year 5. Yeah, they're coming along.
Pretty special times when your kids start to grow. I mean, my little boy, he's now 17 months, and it's just a trip to see, that from conception to birth to now, he's now the toddler and finding his voice. But high school, mate, how'd you go in high school?
I actually went to high school just up the road from here, Freshwater High for a little while, but yeah, high school's trying times, and you form, I guess, some good friendships with people that hopefully you hang on to for a long time, which we kind of did, which is good. It's you find your feet quickly in year 7, I think. So good luck to my boy.
Mate, I remember Bally Boys. That's where I sort of spent my first year of high school. The rest of them didn't. I didn't get the golden ticket from mum to go onwards from there, but.
Totally. What a school.
Oh, mate, there was so much truancy and good times. But that school now has become one of the best in the area, would you believe?
Wow. So the other schools must have gone downhill. Yeah. Well, as you know, I did a couple of years at Bally Boys. I was there for a few months at least out of those years. But yeah, good school.
Mate, the education system's changed a lot these days. There's so much tech for the kids. What's it like for your kids? Are they just surrounded with tech, and how much tech do you need to provide your kids?
The schooling these days is very tech orientated. Like they've got robotics classes and all, they take laptops to school and they use iPads at school and all that kind of thing. So it's pretty tech-based school learning these days, I think, and they're just used to it. It's the norm for them. So, obviously it wasn't for us. I don't think we had a computer in a classroom while I was at school, I don't think. So, yeah.
We had the lemonade stand game at Seaforth Primary.
Totally.
There wasn't much computers at all, hey?
No, not back when we were kids, but yeah. So, yeah, it's just pretty normal for them.
With COVID, you and your band, Grinspoon, they've obviously been a part. Has tech been a big part of it?
Tech is usually involved in doing remote recordings and those kind of things, but we've done a few Zoom meetings during the COVID period and that kind of thing, but we haven't really attempted any recordings or anything like that. We kind of got a lot of that done before we went into the COVID period, and hopefully we're going to continue that on pretty soon. But so we didn't have to do too much of that tech-based kind of live stuff, which was good because I think it's probably a bit hectic when you're not all in one room, but we obviously watched that Powderfinger thing that they did, and that was pretty amazing. So, it can definitely be done.
As a drummer, how much does tech really play into modern drumming then? Is it a real interesting sort of technical bonuses you can have these days?
I think for some drummers there is a lot of tech that they like to include, and not for me so much. I still use a bit of the D drums, which are basically triggers for each tom that I use on my drum kit, but I'm probably even going to strip that back in the next few months and get rid of them. So, and go back to just acoustic drums and mic'd up, obviously, for live. But tech sort of stuff for drums for Grinspoon isn't really a thing that we need too much of.
Where do you need the tech with the spoon then, mate? Anywhere?
The most tech I need is a drum tech, and that's a guy that's going to help me set them up.
Mate, how long you guys been together now then? Is it 26 years or?
We formed in 1995, so yeah, into our 26th year, halfway through it, I think. So, yeah, a long time.
That's a lot of connection, and I guess with music, from what I gather, even though you're playing together, you're playing on your own, and it's non-verbal because you're not really in deep conversation with someone. You got to feel their rhythm. Is that right? Or
It's non-verbal playing music, but it is still a conversation you're kind of having with each other, and you need to be in the same kind of energy or something to make it great, and hopefully that's what we do. Not every night, but try to make it most nights.
and where does that sort of stem from? Is it things you just sort of go back into from the past, or do you find that energy just comes from the music as soon as you count in and feel the audience kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a bit of that, but we all bring a certain amount of energy to the band. But obviously, once you count in the first song of the night, you know what kind of gig it's going to be. You can feel the vibe on stage and how we're all playing together, and that difficult kind of thing to explain, I guess.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, been in production virtually as long as you've been playing professional music, and when I'm doing some bigger projects, I walk on into the set and my mindset's so strong. But minutes before, I'll be anxious, or I'll be in the car, or I'll be driving to the thing, and I'll be thinking about other things. But it's like a light switch, just moment happens. I mean, I guess it's like anyone wants to spend enough hours around it, right?
Yeah, I think being anxious before you're doing something professional or something in front of people is a good thing. We continue to feel that before we go on stage every night. Well, speaking for myself, I do, and it spurs you on, gives you confidence, and away you go. But anything professional like that you've got sort of one shot at it for the day, you should feel those feelings and be ready to deliver.
It's about having backups too, isn't it?
Backups? In what way?
I mean, I guess you've got to have, like a whole array of different
Drugs.
No, they're called cop-outs.
Oh, right.
But those, you got to have different snares, you got to have your tech.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have a backup piece of anything that might break so that the show goes on, the drums don't stop. But same for every instrument in the band and our support on stage, like our techs and stuff like that. They're able to repair anything so that the show doesn't stop, and we've got enough gear to get through it.
Does that come from being an OG, as they say, one of the old guys of the game, or where does that sort of vibe rock from?
I guess so. We kind of just learnt that from the bands that we toured with when we started. So they're just the tips that you pick up along the way.
Mate, talking about those bands you toured with, is there a couple that come to mind that have just been the moments where you've gone, wow, that's what music is, where you've learned a lot?
No, not really.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough.
No, of course there is. I think a band when we started touring we toured with was the Screaming Jets, and at the time they were a fairly large touring rock band, and we learnt lots of tips and tricks from those guys. But every band that we've toured with, we've learnt from, so it's you just pick and choose the bits that you need.
Yeah, and what about, looking at those bands because you're obviously the drummer of the Grinners, is there certain drummers that you've just looked at and gone, wow, this person is the drummer of the year and he's the drummer of the moment, like Dave Grohl when he was with Nirvana or John Theodore or something like that? Or is it drummers that blow your mind?
Yeah, definitely. I've liked lots of drummers over the years, and it doesn't matter how explosive they are or whatever. Each drummer brings a different kind of vibe to their band. But back in the early days, we used to tour with Shehad a lot, and I really liked Tom from Shehad's playing, very solid drummer, not too tricky or anything like that. I kind of like that reflection on my drumming as well, and just cool drummer, But there's been heaps over the years. Lots of bands that we toured with have good drummers, and there's lots of great young Australian drummers coming through. And even different bands like we had Hockey Dad play with us about 3 years ago, came on a tour with us, and Billy's a great drummer, different drummer again, and they're a two-piece band, and all sorts of young, fresh drumming kids coming through doing good things.
you're a young kid wanting to get into the music game these days. Where do you start? I mean, your son obviously is a really good drummer and what I believe quite an accomplished guitarist and still so young. I mean, at age 11, Harry, isn't he at the moment?
Well, he's 12 now, but
Yeah.
he's learning to play guitar. He plays pretty good drums. He's played a couple of gigs with Grinspoon, a few songs. Yeah, it's interesting. He's really taken it on board, and he seems like he'll go a long way with it.
Where does a young kid start then, like a Harry Hopes or whoever you might be? Where do the young kids get their breaks? Because you got your break on the Triple J Unearthed, right?
Yeah, well, you can get breaks from anywhere, I guess, but we entered a competition on Triple J and were lucky enough to be the inaugural winners of that one and it sort of kicked on from there. But that wasn't the kind of be-all and end-all back then. That gave us a few months of airplay and a little bit of national recognition so that we could go out and get gigs in different states and different places. But we really had to work hard back then to actually get a bit of a profile and establish ourselves. So there's many ways to do it these days, and a lot of it's still kind of entering competitions, I guess, by releasing your music to radio stations and that kind of thing. With the Unearthed competition still running, and plenty of different ways, but basically just getting out there and trying to play and get your demos around to whoever will listen to them and might be able to help you. You just got to. It's pretty difficult, really.
So you don't sort of do like Guy Sebastian's brother and go on The Voice then, do you? Or?
It's another competition, maybe. He's doing all right. Good on him. Like, yeah, I mean, people can talk these things up or down of whether they like them or don't like them, but it's just another way to do it, man. Good luck to them.
That's it, isn't it? I mean, I'm really humbled, these days.
By me?
Yeah, totally by you, and to be sitting here with you, honestly, because some of my early on, breaks I got from you, from actually,
a little bit, but
but just hanging out and doing and working hard, right?
Yeah, totally, exactly. You were around. We needed someone to shoot stuff, and it was good that you'll be able to help us out. We weren't a massive profile back then, and we needed help to from people like you to be able to shoot stuff so that we can get more of our music out there, and video format or whatever we were trying to do back then, and. Yeah, so it was people helping people, man.
But it's funny, like these days when I get the call and I write the production estimate and it all comes through and it's, down to the invoice,
And then we cut it in half.
People try and cut it in half, they do. Or they call you and they say, it's been a tight month, can we slow drip feed you? I'm like, yeah, whatever. But for me, when I look at that creative canvas and I walk into a project now, especially with the decades of knowledge that I have, it really is humbling to go, okay, cool, this is what I do and it's fun. I mean, you guys are about to do a new album, as you were saying. Is it a good vibe to think, you can start something totally, it can be, either a milestone in your career or can be, a massive hit?
Yeah, well, these, I mean, I'm not sure if we're going to release an album or not yet. Definitely going to release a song some stage soon. That's yet to be worked out, but we've got a few in the bank, and who knows, hopefully at some stage this year we'll at least get a single out and be sort of back on the road. But yeah, it's different the way you release things these days. It's you basically can just put 4 or 5 singles out and that's kind of like a mini album or whatever. You don't pretty much, not a lot of bands pretty much put together a start to finish album and put it out these days. It's just not what happens.
So many industries have changed over the years. The print game's obviously virtually gone. My game went from, you could literally sell photos to, if you're in the action sports arena, so to speak, to never selling them. Mm-hmm. And the music game, as you're saying, it's all streamed. I mean, did that blow you away at first?
Yeah, it's quite different when, streaming started and all that for us. But we were kind of lucky that we kind of had a fairly substantial fan base that was good enough to kind of switch over and didn't affect us too much, and we were deep enough into our career for it to not affect us too much. It would have, I guess, affected younger bands coming through at that stage when the change kind of happened, but yeah, it's you just kind of roll with it and work out different kind of income streams these days when you, as a new band anyway, of how to survive.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting equation. I mean, like your wife, I shoot some real estate media. I really enjoy the architectural side of capturing a home and looking at a property and thinking, how do I want to actually make this look for the buyer and as real as the actual property is? Because, you don't want to sell something that's just an illusion. And it's really cool to actually get in there and see what people are doing in the buy and sell side of things. And you muck around a little bit in that space yourself, right? Are you obviously you're a drone pilot as well?
But yeah, it's interesting new element to photography in general and video in general these days. Flying the drones and doing those kind of things, and yeah, I enjoy it. Great.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, isn't it? I mean, I get, a lot of satisfaction in, when you see the real estate property you've shot actually sold within a matter of days, because the impact of what you've done is so relevant to the market, and people just absolutely can remotely view any property that's possible and then punch in and buy it. I end up pretty pumped. And when you think about what the photographer actually gets out of it, you get paid really, reasonably well, and then at the sell and exchange, you get satisfaction.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a good thing to see your work out there, and especially if you've done a good job and helped someone sell their palace or whatever. And yeah, it's cool.
And what about, the music game now for you guys? Where do you end up going from here?
If it all goes and no more sort of COVID stoppages or whatever, it should be a really good year for us of lots of live touring and yeah.
Currently, where's your first show?
I think our first show is in Hobart.
You dig that Tasmanian vibe. I've been down there to Tassie with you guys. It's pretty special, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. Love scallop pies, mate. They're the best. No, it's good. Salamanca markets, all that kind of area down in Hobart. Lovely place. It feels like, convict territory, like the olden days. It's cool. It's got a good vibe.
The time that I've spent down there, and some of it actually spent, in places that got orchards on there. I've eaten apples and just gone, so that's what an apple tastes like. Like the quality of produce is totally untouched, don't you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they got nice wineries and all sorts of stuff going on there. But it's beautiful part of the world.
My eyes are just totally in love with this country. When you're driving along and you're seeing the landscape that we have and the vibe of the people, and how fortunate we are, during what's been 12 months of, virtually a new life, we sort of come through it pretty amazingly, don't you reckon?
Absolutely, compared to so many other places around the world that are just, no good, like England and, America, and like we're doing pretty well. We're pretty lucky.
Your industry just got totally stopped. Did that freak you out? Did you hit a point where you're like, wow, is this it for live music? We'll never come back? Or you always knew there'd be a, go away to come back kind of thing?
You just never know. Like every gig could be our last. You never know. The COVID thing, it was kind of just had to take it in our stride and see what happens. There was plenty of other industries that were as badly hit, and some probably even worse. It's only music. Entertainment will always be around. We'll come back at some stage, and hopefully we'll get to do that this year. But yeah, it's no biggie.
Well, Dono was on here once, and Dono and I were chatting, and he said that's Greg Donovan, Grinner's manager. Shout out to Dono, good man, legend. Thanks for being on the BK. But Dono literally said, to be a successful musician with longevity, you got to go away to come back anyway. So to have this sort of break, people will be absolutely frothing to see you guys.
Yeah, I think so. Well, we did that already. We've kind of used that one. We went away for 3 or 4 years and came back, and it was actually refreshing for the band as well as for the fans. So, it's fairly true. I don't know. Everyone's had a break from everything in COVID, so who knows how it all comes back. But I think it will be as fun for us as it is for the fans coming back and playing all these shows. As long as they happen, it'll be great.
I guess coming out with a new song to a crowd that just wants to hear good music, it could be a good time to do it. But, the album or the 4 or 5 songs, have you got a couple in there that absolutely you play regularly and go, this is good music? Is there stuff that's blowing your own mind again?
Yeah, we've written some good tunes. Definitely, we've got a few in the bank. We got most of that done before COVID hit. It was actually right before COVID hit. Just after our last show, we stayed in Adelaide and recorded probably 15 tracks, something like that. Out of that, of releasable sort of stuff, there might be a few. So we've still got a few more sessions of that to go during this year, hopefully. But there's probably 2 or 3 in there that are good crackers.
Are you way more critical these days of your music? Do you think, you know what, that's not good enough?
Yeah, probably. And, sometimes that can kind of hurt you, or, you could probably throw out some stuff that's, if you're overcritical and you just don't think it's what it's supposed to be or whatever, you could ditch some stuff that is good. And so you got to be careful of doing that as well. I think there's a few good ones in there, but
that's exciting. I mean, I'd be, there's a couple of artists that I've followed from my lifetime, and when you hear their music come out again, it's always a real interesting moment to see how authentic it is to their original tone or original style of music. Is this original Grinners sort of vibe?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we've kind of gone back to a bit sort of punkier, or not punkier, a bit sort of more core Grinspoon material from the older sort of years, but a bit less FM rock, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's a bit more raucous, I'd say.
Fun. I mean, that's the kind of music that our generation totally got down with, right? There was a bunch of bands that, in the Australian scene, there was 10 to 15 that all had that vibe, but they all had their own sound. To be in that zone now in 21 must feel good, eh?
Yeah. The last demo sessions we did feel good. Like it felt re-energized and felt good.
Awesome. And those bands, or some of those bands that also were in your ilk, you guys are playing with some of them?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So who are you playing with coming up, you reckon? If it all happens.
There's all of them. There's like a lot of the shows that we've got booked are with a lot of those older bands, like Regurgitator, UMI, She Had, I think there's even Jebediah, a whole bunch of them. But yeah, it's that era.
And is everyone kind of healthy, or is there a couple of fatties in there? Is anyone in a wheelchair yet, or what's the deal?
I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. I hope for their own health that they're all good.
Well, I think the after party these days, this might be a cup of tea,
Cup of tea and a juice. And a lie down. I really don't know. I'm just trying to struggle to look after myself. I'm still in one piece, which is good.
Mate, I know that, because we're in contact quite a bit, Krisso and I, but, before you do go into rehearsal or before you do go into recording sessions or tour, your whole life changes. Do you flip the switch a lot into that really high impact and health routine, or is that now just a part of your day-to-day?
No, I go through phases. Coming up to a tour, I'll kind of go strict diet, exercise about a month before we play, and go back to practicing and that kind of thing. So other than that, outside of touring, I cut loose a bit more, let my program slide a bit. But yeah, getting now that we're a bit older, you kind of have to put in a few hard yards before you go on tour, just to keep it all lubed up, mate.
Mate, it's an essential thing. I fast a lot, so I'll go into periods, 4 days a week. I'll fast 21 hours a day and have a 3-hour eating window. So I'll eat from 3 till 6. So it's funny, once you get past that 18-hour mark, your brain goes into this thing called autophagy, and they say it's really good for Alzheimer's. And the reason why I've sort of stepped into it, initially it was to lean up a little bit, but it was more so to think about the last, I don't know, it might sound pretty odd, but because I've got such a young child, the last 10 to 20 years of my life, like what quality of life do I want to lead, if that makes sense?
Absolutely, yeah. You got a young kid and you want to be there for him, and be energetic and stuff, so he doesn't kick your ass. Like, yeah, exactly. You gotta stay trim and fit and do your best.
Mate, as you know, your kids kick your ass. My son is literally, Hudson, you know you kick dad's ass, but my son literally attacks me already. He gives me nipple cripples. He grabs my nose. He
Nice.
little eye gouges, and he's only like 17 months.
Be careful, mate. Be careful. He's coming for you.
Oh, it's time to just keep running that family routine and loving it. I mean,
absolutely.
So I was at your place a couple of years ago, and you looked at me, and Amy was on the balcony, and I thought, he's starting to talk some pretty interesting stuff here. But you said to me straight then, you know who runs this house, don't you? How important is it for a guy to listen to the woman for that good marriage?
I wouldn't be asking me for marriage advice, mate. But yeah, you probably stay on the good side of it, mate, and your house will run a bit smoother.
One good thing about kids and marriage, it really keeps your life on track, don't you think?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you got to have something to work towards, and a bit of meaning for life and that kind of thing. Yeah, I guess so. It's whatever floats your boat, but it's whatever keeps you on track. And if you enjoy that, you do it. Otherwise, you be a single guy and you do whatever you want. Stay up all night
and go mad.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of dig my sitcho because I'm lucky enough to be able to still get my surfs in. Yeah, still get to hang with the boys. Like we hung out last night. It's kind of killer, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Well, you're a lucky guy. You got the best of both worlds, and if that's what works for you, that's great.
But you must get that when you tour, right? Because you're with, you're just not with the three lads from the band. You got your TM, you've got the front of house crew, the back line crew.
My fitness trainer. Yeah,
psychologist.
No, we have between the 4 band, and we usually have 5 or 6 crew. I think it's a pretty good touring outfit. No one goes too crazy these days because we need to kind of stay on top of it, make sure we do the next show and keep everyone happy. People pay a lot of money for a ticket these days, and we should try and deliver, So that's the aim of the game when we're on tour, but it's still fun. We still enjoy it.
And you've got some real numbers coming there as well, and they're not just the Gen Xers. You got quite a diverse crowd. Is that cool?
Yeah, totally. I think after we did the 2017 Guide to Better Living tour, we kind of picked up a sort of new little generation of fans, which was great. A lot of parents back then brought their kids to the show, and so we kind of got a few of those on board, which is good. And then the last couple of tours that we've done, we've seen those fans come back. So yeah, it's healthy for the band.
That's a real win. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to be able to connect, and that's what music really does, and your music doesn't seem to have, it's our generation, but it doesn't seem to have a cap to it, right?
Yeah, well, I hope not. We're still going, but it seems like it's got a whole nother life at the moment, and long live the band.
And the management side of it, obviously Greg Donovan's done, a great job after Justin Van Stom did his early day management of the band. Is it important to have someone in your corner that just will give you the truth? Because you must have a lot of people not giving you the truth for a long time in the early days, right?
Oh, not so much with us. I think we kind of knew what was kind of going on for most of it. I mean, early days when we were touring America and that, with our previous manager, Justin, there was a bit of stuff going on there. But, after that and Greg got on board, it all kind of, we didn't bullshit each other too much about what we were trying to achieve and what was possible to achieve. And, we're all on the same page with that. And that's kind of the way it's worked ever since till now.
Kind of like the Donald Trump campaign that just went through, right?
Right. Let's wind this one up.
Oh, man, that was some weird shit watching that, though, wasn't it? Like in Australia, you would never get any of that sort of hoo-ha behind the political agenda, right? They just roll them out if they're going to be clowns.
A long episode of whatever shit show that was. with Mr. Trump, but thank God that's seen the tail end. Yeah, it's poor America, but yeah, crazy stuff.
You can only feel for him because, I mean, the everyday American's pretty damn good bloke, I reckon. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, we met a lot of good Americans when we were over there, and but I mean the way he sort of toyed with that country and you know the people of that country, it's like he definitely left his fingerprints all over it, and yeah, pretty horrible all the rioting and stuff that went on.
yeah, just, I don't know. I mean, as an Aussie, I always just sort of kick back and go, thank fuck. The majority of us are saying, you know, like we're
Yeah.
mad dogs, but we're saying we're not buying into guns and, you know, storming Canberra.
Well,
and-
we would have been if you know if that after that Port Arthur thing and whoever it was, John, whatever his name is, brought in those gun laws and the gun amnesty, and everyone gave them up. You know, the same thing would be happening here. So we're kind of lucky that you know our strict rules have taken all that away.
Yeah, safety, especially of the kids, you know, and our next generations. I mean, you know, both of us have got such young kids, and they got so much blue sky ahead of them. It's good that there's no, you know, lunacy in the guns in Australia, right? You know.
Yeah, you can't get angry and just pull a gun out and shoot someone. You can fight them, but that probably won't kill them.
Yeah, well, and fighting doesn't really get you anywhere, does it? You know, I mean,
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
You're right.
I don't know about that, but you know, so you know, music now, obviously, the rock and roll vibe is back. But what's the new music like, and what do you like in you know? Do you like Tones and I? Do you like the current stuff that's out there, or what sort of gets you moving?
I listen to all sorts of stuff, but I like some of the new pop artists coming through, like Benny. Yeah, I don't think I'd put Tones and I up there. That's
sort of
not my
hits.
kind of thing. But
Yeah.
but yeah, there's lots of good new stuff coming through. Yeah, I don't have time these days to listen to heaps of new music, but you know, the bits of time that I do have, you know, I try and listen to new stuff, new releases on Spotify, and pick new artists to listen to.
Just to keep you inspired, kind of thing, and just
Yeah, just something different, freshen your mind up with different music. Enjoyable.
yeah, I kind of, my wife, you know, being the pianist, I end up, you know, sort of listening to like contemporary composers who are pretty nuts. Like, you know, they're doing stuff like Ludovico Einaudi. They're playing piano that's really interesting to listen to, and it's not just like that typical classical, you know, sleepy, beautiful, dreamy stuff. This is like really flowy and fast, and you know, there's so much music out there, and music is, you know, I guess the gateway to, you know, our lives, really, isn't it? The secret to living.
Absolutely. I find that my life doesn't feel great when I'm not listening or playing music. You know, music's a big part and should be a big part of everyone's lives, I think. Whether you play it or not, makes you feel good.
Has it been hard not to play music live then? Has that sort of added to a little bit of raspiness in your life? Has it bugged you a bit?
Yeah, maybe. Like that COVID kind of thing, you know, stopped all the music for us, and it did bring a little bit of sort of anxiousness of not being able to get out there and play live music. But you know, we just roll with the punches, and hopefully, you know, as I said, we'll be back at some stage soon. Hopefully, this next gig will happen, and we'll roll from there. But yeah, it should feel weird when you're not doing something you love to do.
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, I remember early on that COVID period, I couldn't speak for 2 weeks. I went into,
Drunk
yeah, I wish, or super stoned, but, you know,
on the shuttle again.
on the shuttle
Yeah,
again,
all
everyone.
right,
No,
all
but
right.
I went into I just went into a moment of, it wasn't even fear. It was just like, far out. This is, you know, when you start thinking about the little one and feeding him and putting food on the table and then thinking,
In between the panic buying at the shops and
oh man, wasn't that trippy, wasn't it?
yeah, it was.
How was Brizzy? Was it
It was
out
the
of control?
same. Yeah, it was like toilet paper. Why? I don't know. And it happened again recently somewhere, wherever it was. Something took off in Queensland, and there was another little panic buy thing. But yeah, just strange, weird.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I ever thought would be big day out tickets or something like that. That was the only panic buying
Yeah,
for us.
totally. Totally. And probably some other things, but yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I was so bizarre, man. Huh? You
Mm,
know, with our kids coming forward, I mean, I look at Phoenix as a COVID kid. He's a
mm,
kid that, first of all, at birth, a couple of weeks after birth, he'd only ever had oxygen that was fueled with fire, so everything was super smoky in Sydney. And then we got through that, and I was like, wow, the kids actually got clean air. And the next thing you know, it's like COVID is
mm,
here. And I was like, what the
mm.
is this kid going to get a break? Like, I've got to roll with whatever I've got to roll with, and they don't know anything, right? How did your kids deal with it being 10 and 11? Was it bizarre for them?
A little bit. They were kind of wondering what was going to happen. It was a bit like the apocalypse happening. What's happening? Should we start buying guns and get weapons and stuff like that? So it was a little bit weird, but then they realised nothing was going to happen, and it's just a 1 in 100 year outbreak.
Homeschooling a
We'll
lot?
get through it. Yeah, we tried that, and there was lots of yelling and stuff, and then we sent them back to school, and they were much happier.
So that kind of like settled them, sending them back to their routine.
Yeah, no, they just wanted to get away from us yelling at them.
No, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, so that was all good. Our school was like any job is an essential service as long as you've got a job that you can go to. And we're like, well, okay, well, one of us does. So we'll send the kids back to school. We're not school teachers.
I remember taking it back, a few years prior. I was thinking, we all get caught up in addiction. We all get caught up in certain buying habits or trends or going to the same shop every day. I thought, what
It's
happens if we could hit pause and see where we end up?
Yeah, well, as you said, that addiction thing, that's all part of addiction, all that stuff. It's food, it's drugs or alcohol, it's shopping, it's like, I think we were talking about that last night, and they're all linked together kind of thing. So, yeah, when everything stops, like that COVID kind of break that we have, everything pauses, you really kind of work yourself out.
Yeah, I've found I feel great, like on the other side of it. That's where I got really into my qigong again and got right into this fasting side of things because I was like, I guess for a moment there when I started getting work on happening again, being a business owner,
Mm.
I just worked and didn't eat the right food and worked and wasn't exercising, and I was like, okay, the money's coming in again. I got to keep working, but
Yeah, well, you can
literally,
fall into that pattern of just struggling for the business kind of thing, which is, you have to do it sometimes so that you are making the money that you need to make or whatever. But yeah, it can really affect your life.
yeah, on the other side of it, when I made that literal switch in my mind to like, you know what, I'm going surfing and I'm going to balance things and let's get back into fasting, but let's educate myself on fasting, not just like let's just stop eating and go on some 48-hour famine, or 40-hour famine thing. Like,
Totally.
let's try and get a little bit educated with this. It is amazing what I could start punching into and thinking we're literally on the treadmill and we're not realizing how deep we are in the treadmill until something like COVID literally freaks us out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I agree.
Yeah. I'm glad you agree. Otherwise, he'd be getting the door, mate. No, I'm joking. How do you feel about, the vaccine itself for you and your family, and what do you think it would do for, I guess, Australia, for the music industry, for the ability to travel and do gigs?
I think it will be a good thing for the country and the world to open back up properly. There will be a sort of passport or whatever they're saying, like on an app on your phone or whatever, to say that you've got it or you haven't got it or you're up to date or whatever, and that will allow you to do certain things. I mean, there's a fairly controlling aspect to it, but I think that's the only way everything's going to open back up properly. So it might end up creating the herd immunity or whatever they're talking about, and hopefully that's the case. And so for the sort of smaller percentage of the population that don't end up getting it, hopefully we're all covered.
Do you think there's a lot of fear in people who are maybe on the side of COVID's a hoax and all the rest of it kind of stuff, and they're going to shy away from it, and that might sort of put us all in what they might say danger? Or how do you feel about all that sort of hearsay.
Yeah, I don't know. Everyone's got their own opinion on it, and that there's a certain percentage of anti-vaxxers or that won't be into it and don't want to get it, and I guess hopefully they can get away with it, and that herd immunity thing can cover that. I mean, I don't know how that's all going to work, and also that you know COVID passport that you get after you've got it, that's going to be that thing on your phone that will allow you to travel and all that. That might end up convincing some of those people to get it if they have to, but it's a shitty thing, really, but we're probably all going to have to get it at some stage.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, Katie being a school teacher, there's no way I can see, her being a frontline worker, I guess, being allowed to communicate and teach, privately teach kids without the family saying, do you have that vaccine,
Yeah, I would agree. I'd say definitely that's probably the case.
How would you be the same with your kids? Like if you've got it and a teacher didn't have it, would you be like, come on, that's not right,
I don't think that would be even up to us. I think if the schools would do that. They would insist that they either have it or don't teach at that school or whatever their requirements are. But yeah, I think my family will get it and move on.
Yeah, I think there's a sensible way to look at it, and there's obviously the fearful way to look at it, and then there's the conspiracy theories way to look at it. I mean, at the end of the day, when they start, they're calling in Australia, from what I understand, by October, if you've chosen to get it, the whole country should have the vaccine, and herd immunity will be in action. So that's from now. What are we talking? 8 months away.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, it could be really good.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we just don't know. I mean, that's that word that we hang our hats on, as in that hope. Kristian Hopes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time of the show where we're going to, say a couple of shout outs. First and foremost, I'd like to have a big shout out to my mate here, Kristian Hopes. He's been one of the early people pioneering my life behind a camera, and gave me unlimited access to working with him in the Grinspoon band. Grinspoon, obviously founded in the Lismore area, came out in 95 with their Green EP, then the Guide to Better Living album. If you don't know their music, check them out.
Shout out to you, Matty. Thanks for having me. It's been real long.
Mate, it's there's nothing better than catching up. I mean, I've known Kristian over here since we're early on in life down at Manly Wharf. Manly these days is super gentrified. Every square inch of shop space is either Gazillion or no one in there because it's Gazillion. We grew up in an era in Manly. It was pretty full on, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Manly was crazy back then. I went down there this morning just for a bit of a reminisce. Got some food and hung out down there. Yeah, we used to hang around there when we were little dudes and hang out at Manly Wharf and go swimming and do crazy things.
It's pretty wild in some ways, wasn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was lots of crazy stuff going on. Lots of little gangs and little hoods hanging out, doing crimes and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, it was a wild place back then.
Mum was buying a house in Manly that she still lives in. Big shout out to Mum, actually. She's a legend. But, Mum came home. She said, well, the agent said we can get in a hardboard, and that's kind of nice and family, but Manly's got growth, but there's a lot of Pacific Islanders there and a lot of heroin. It was full on back there. I mean, the Pacific Islanders were just cruisy, wonderful people, but there was a lot of drugs, eh?
Yeah, I think so, but I was just a little kid then, so I didn't do drugs.
Yeah, but it was there. I mean, there was
Yeah,
you could see
absolutely.
it.
Yeah,
You knew it was
absolutely.
there.
Yep, for
And
sure.
and there was violence. It was,
Yeah, lots of violence. Yeah, violence and drugs.
it's so different to, they say these days on Manly, don't go down there past 10 o'clock on a Saturday night because there's fights and that. But no one really had an idea unless you grew up back in our era what that sort of pressure was like as a kid,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there was a lot of pressure down there on weekend nights and all that. It's pretty different now. It'd be two real estate agents fighting each other.
Over a latte
Yeah, totally.
or over a sale.
Over a sale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over a listing.
Yeah.
You got that? I didn't.
Yeah, pretty different these days.
Yeah, I guess, when we grew up, we were so fortunate because I guess for that time, it brought everyone together. You knew everyone, huh? Like there was Durwood and there was the Newman brothers and the Pascoes and, all these characters and Sim and Carly and your girls.
Yeah, your girls. There was lots of different crews of people from sort of all over Northern Beaches that came and hung out down there in Manly. So yeah, it was some hectic stuff that would go on.
And what about, where you live now in Brisbane, your
I
kids
still run the streets. No, it's there's no pressure up there, mate. It's all good.
The kids are riders' brain. They can ride their bikes and do anything. Hey, it's beautiful.
Yeah. No, it's all good. All good. I protect them from that shit, dude.
And the valley, with the valleys sort of.
No, the valley's is still a bit crazy, but it's not too bad. It's mostly 18-year-old kids there drinking too much. Yeah, it's no King's Cross or anything.
No, when I lived in Brizzy, it kind of reminded me of a New Year's Eve every Friday, Saturday night. It was just sprawled. Everyone on the piss, everyone like partying. There wasn't, it wasn't like didn't have that seedy cross vibe. Just had an overflow. Is that pretty busy there, hey?
Yeah, we celebrate New Year's every Saturday night. Totally. It's Queensland.
You could say, Grinners aren't that far from originally there being in Byron, Does that sort of help you to connect with Pat and the boys at all? Or?
Yeah, we don't live too far away, and it's only under 2 hours for us to hook up, and as long as the borders are open to go and do what we need to do. So yeah, it's a good spot, Brizzy. It's as I said, it's a little bit too hot sometimes, but other than that, it's a great spot. I live close to the airport, so I can get out of there and go touring and do whatever we need to do.
Do you sort of still freak out in a way, or not freak out? Does it still blow you away when people come up to you and say, "Hey, I love something about Grinspoon"? Do you get a bit of that fan stuff still, or?
Occasionally, I guess. Yeah, it's great. And anyone comes up to you and says they love what you do or what you've done, it's awesome.
That's a good vibe, isn't it? To get appreciated for what you do. I can go to one of your concerts and have a hell of a time and drink a couple of beers and have a good old laugh and literally come home, and my wife goes to me the next day. She goes, "Have you lost your voice again?" It's like, no, I just sung every note.
Yeah,
and
right.
At 11,
That's good. That's good. Oh, that's what we expect. Every gig, it's a big sing along. It's a great night. It's fun for us and fun for the fans that come along.
Talking about the fans that are coming along, how many shows have you got in the pipeline for 2021, being the year that the vaccine's going to roll out and things are going to come good?
Yeah, there's lots of shows booked. So yeah, we're booked up until December, I think. So yeah, fingers crossed that all goes ahead. So
if you're a fan out there, where do you go to keep your eye on the Grinspoon progress, and how do you know that your show's going ahead? Do they just go to grinspoon.com.au or?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It's all over the place these days, so it's either Spotify or wherever you get your music from. You can usually find some touring dates or whatever. So,
Krisso, it's good to actually have you on the BK. It's been a real pleasure sitting down and having a bit of a yak.
Thanks for having me, Matt. It's been awesome.
Mate, no worries. And, obviously the year's going to go ahead and we're going to get out there and start touring. Are you absolutely pumped to play some sets?
Absolutely. Can't wait. Go Manly.
That's it. So what about before we wrap, where do you see Manly finishing the table this year?
It could be ugly. Hopefully, if we're lucky, maybe top 8 would be nice. See how we go.
And what's Hasler got to do to motivate the troops?
I don't know. We've got a few new players, so hopefully Foran goes all right, doesn't get injured, and we should be good.
Well, there is nothing better than being good, ladies and gentlemen. As you can hear from Kristian Hopes here, a lot of optimism in the year ahead. I'm Matt Jai, and if you want to get down with the BK, certainly share this to your friends, like it, enjoy listening to it, enjoy watching it. It's going to be a big year, 2021 on the BK, and a big year for this man here, Kristian Hopes. Lovely to see you, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate.
You know it, brother. Take it easy, everyone.
Awesome.
And I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, most important, be authentic to yourself. Love those who love you, love your mum. And if you got a wife or husband, love them and educate your kids good. Give them good food and say to them good night.